Laurel, since it's a guest, we will not use the timing bell unless you want us to.
No, I've got a clock here, I'll just look at it.
But we should do the Dharma opening and closing verses.
Okay.
If somebody wants to ring the bell for the Dharma opening and closing verses.
We are broadcasting when we go to, we want to make Facebook Live our, kind of our main platform. So everything else is just really, when I give you the 1, 2, 3, let me get the bell. Sorry.
In spite of Mark Zuckerberg, we want Facebook to be.
Well, we're not giving Facebook any money.
Oh, okay.
Even though we're the product.
So what's the date today? December 23.
Okay.
Welcome to Atlanta Soda Zen Center. This is December 23rd, and it's Sunday morning. And we have a guest teacher from Oxford, Mississippi. Zen Center, you call it, or Zen Group?
I call it Oxford Soto Zen. Period.
Oxford Soto Zen, period. And Kido Dimily Listenby, and she's trained in the Suzuki lineage. And when she moved back from California to Oxford, her teacher, Cornelia Trunkwiler, recommended that she find a local teacher she could continue working with. She's gone through her Shuke Tokudo, or black robe, ordination ceremony in the Suzuki lineage, and she's joined our lineage. One of my teachers, Barbara Serene Cohn, is a Suzuki lineage as well, so we have kind of a dash line to the Suzuki lineage, as well as Matsuoka, Roshi, and Kodosawaki, or Uchiyama lineages. Mm-hmm. So we welcome Kido here today, and she's been here for this week, and we'll be leading the talk. Today the talk is on the Metta Sutta, Loving Kindness Sutra, which is attributed to Buddha. And we're going to do a little experiment with it. We're going to perform it one time, musically. Those of you who've been here frequently know that we often do the oral tradition where somebody leads and everybody tries to follow the way the teachings were done originally. This is a little variation on that. The fourth Sunday, which is today, we try to feature a contemporary teaching, so you could call this maybe a contemporization of an older teaching. So I've done a little simple setting to music, and we will go through that first. And we would like you all to join in on the chorus. Those of you who feel comfortable are welcome to sing along once you get the gist of the melody and so forth. And it is in the yellow book that we handed out. The home practice manual has the whole Metta Sutta in there, but it's not set up for musical performance. It's just one time through. For the sake of time, we're not going to go through that. We're just going to go through it here. And then we have commentary from Kido-san, who will be giving us a talk about her understanding of the meaning of this and so forth. And she was interviewed about this by Andrew on Thursday night Zen Talk this last week. So you should be good and prepared. So I'd like you to take a look at the paper we handed out with the chorus. And the chorus simply repeats 3 times. It comes the first time where it comes in text, but then we use it to break up the lyric, if you will, 2 more times, and then at the very end. So we end up singing the chorus 1, 2, 3 times, and at the end we'll repeat it a couple times and close that way. So I'd like you to hear the chord progression is very simple. It's a descending bass kind of thing. And we'll just rehearse a little bit, just singing the chorus first so that you can all get a feeling for it. And so then when we come to the chorus, we'd like you to sort of come out and sing out loud. So let's do it. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. all living beings, whether weak or strong, high, middle, or low realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, near or far, born, yet to be born. May all beings be happy. 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 Is everybody okay with that? Here? Sing a harmony part if you like, and you don't have to follow our phrasing. So let's begin. This is what may be accomplished by the one who is wise, who seeks the good and has obtained peace. Let one be strenuous, upright, and sincere, without pride, easily contented and joyous. Let one not be submerged by the things of the world. Let one not take upon oneself the burden of riches. Let one's senses be controlled. Let one be wise, but not puffed up. Let one not desire great possessions, even for one's family. Let one do nothing that is mean, or that the wise would reprove. Okay, everybody. May all beings be happy, may they be joyous and live in safety. All living beings, whether weak or strong, in high, middle, or low realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, near or far, born yet to be born. May all beings be happy. 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 Let no one deceive another, nor despise any being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm to another. Even as a mother, at the risk of her life, watches over and protects her only child. So with a boundless mind, should one cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around, without limit. And so let one cultivate an infinite goodwill toward the whole world. Everybody. May all beings be happy, may they be joyous, and live in safety. Whether weak or strong, high, middle, or low realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, near or far, born yet to be born. May all beings be happy. 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 Standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours, let one cherish the thought that this way of living is the best in the world. This way of living is the best in the world. Abandoning vain discussion, having a clear vision, free from sense appetites, one who realizes the way. Never again, no rebirth in the cycle of creation and suffering for ourselves or for others. May all beings be happy, may they be joyous and live in safety. All living beings, whether weak or strong, in our
Right.
little realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, you are
Born or yet to be born.
May all beings be happy. 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 Including thee and me. So the experiment setting things to music, from my perspective, is try to let people hear the words. When you read on a page, it doesn't have exactly the same impact, same kind of reaction. So with that, let's turn it over to Kido. Would you like to make some opening remarks?
Sure. I just want to talk about the Metta Sutta a little bit and then see if we can work a little bit with it. So I was introduced to it when I first started practicing Zen seriously at Middle Way Zen at Kannon-do in where was it? It was in California, but we didn't chant it very often, and so I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But then when I started studying with my guiding Roshi, the one that ordained me in San Jose, we would chant it at least weekly. And I had the feeling that my teacher there, Cornelia Schockweiler, believed that it was a way into really understanding Buddhist practice. Oh. And so but we still just chanted it. I don't remember her ever talking about it or anything like that. But the first time I ever studied it in depth was when I was studying with a man named Gil Fronsdal. He's a Vipassana teacher. Vipassana is kind of like an offshoot of Theravada. And most of their Dharma literature is from the Pali Canon, which includes the Metta Sutta. And actually the Metta Sutta, I believe this is true, is the only chant from the Pali Canon that is universally chanted in Soto Zen practice, certainly in America and maybe all over the world. So somewhere, and I don't know when this happened historically, but somewhere the Soto Zen people realized that they needed to think about this loving kindness as a way in to compassion. So let's see. The Metta Sutta, as Sensei said, is directly attributed to Shakyamuni Buddha. And he is said to have used it and developed meditation techniques using it, related to it, for the purpose of developing the habit of selfless or altruism. So there are a lot of Vipassana meditation techniques based on metta. Metta is loving kindness, different than compassion, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Loving kindness, everyone can relate to it. It's present in all the other religions. It's something that everyone wants from someone else. It's something that everyone needs. So I think the practicing of metta is probably a good way to relate to people. And so the Shakyamuni was said to have really understood that. One of my teachers in these courses where I studied it in depth, well, there were two courses I took at Insight Meditation Center, which is a Vipassana meditation center in Redwood City, California. The guy that's the main teacher at that meditation center, his name is Gil Fronsdahl, and he's a wonderful teacher. He's just really funny and really wise and really nails it when you have some problem. When I had some problem, I could just ask him about it so directly, and he would just like give me something. So working with him and working in these programs, I took a program called Deepening Compassion. And that was a 6-week program, and there were about 30 of us in it. And it met once a week for about 2 hours. When I first went into it, I wasn't so sure that my compassion flowed naturally. I felt like I had to work on it. But then, under the tutelage of these people that were teaching it, Paul Haller was another one of the teachers, and so was Jennifer Block. She's a interfaith chaplain, works a lot in hospitals. So, under their tutelage, I began to realize that the thing was, I really did have a lot of compassion. I wasn't sure how to tap it. I was afraid I couldn't tap it. So I kind of got over that doing this, and loving kindness or metta was a good way into it. And another name for metta, another translation of it I found a couple of places, is friendship. So loving kindness, metta, and friendship. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Gil. Gil is about 55 or 60 years old. He seems youthful. He practiced Soto Zen and Vipassana in the U.S. since 1975, and he's a transmitted Soto Zen priest. And he's also trained by Jack Kornfield in the early 90s. He trained with Kornfield, who's kind of like the guru of insight meditation. Insight meditation creeps over a little bit into the psychological, because the idea is to know yourself in a way that's a little bit analytical compared to what we do in most of our Zen practice. But I want to quote you a couple of Gil's wise quotes about metta, the Metta Sutta. In metta practice, we water the seeds of our good intentions. When we water wholesome intentions instead of expressing unwholesome ones, we develop those wholesome tendencies within us. If these seeds aren't watered, they won't grow. When watered by regular practice, they grow, sometimes in unexpected fashion. And another thing he said was recognizing and expressing goodwill. Goodwill is another name for metta. Have a softening effect on our hearts. At times this evokes feelings of love, tenderness, and warmth. At other times this softening of the heart can expose difficult or painful, buried emotions. Allowing all these emotions to surface in their own time is one function of metta practice. A kind of a kindness to ourselves. It's possible to really face up to anything that might be buried. So that's where, to me, it kind of laps over into psychological work. And then one more thing from Gil. When we find difficulty in relating to others and ourselves with intentions of kindness, the practice of metta can provide a useful reference point to help us see what in fact we are feeling. So it's like we're having a fight with somebody, or somebody irritating the hell out of us, or we just really don't like that person's behavior. And so we want to be good Buddhists, so we try to shower metta on them from our heart. But somehow it's hard to do. But if we really try to be aware of it, we can find out what we are actually in fact feeling, which is the first step toward watering those good seeds, accepting those maybe not so wholesome ones. I was looking at another Theravada writer, and he was talking about the real good reasons for practicing metta. His name is Venerable Panyavaro. I never heard of him before, but I like what he had to say here. It is a fact of life that many people are troubled by negative mind states, yet do little about it in terms of developing skills to deal with it. Even when the mind goes sour, it is within most people's capacity to arouse feelings of loving kindness, to sweeten it. A sour mind arouses feelings of loving kindness, and you have sweet and sour pork. Loving kindness as a meditation practice specifically retrains the mind to overcome all forms of negativity. It brings about positive attitudinal changes as the meditation systematically develops the quality of loving acceptance. So some of these Theravada techniques of meditation are developed by the Dalai Lama and some neuroscientists at Stanford, and of course the Dalai Lama's great friend and assistant and English interpreter, Thupten Jinpa. They have created progressive training in how to gradually develop loving kindness in oneself, and it starts with focusing on sending it to ourselves, our own selves. And then it kind of widens out into people that are close to us, and then people that we know, and then people that we just barely know, and then people that we don't know. And somewhere in there, there's a net of people that we generally do not like to be with. So somewhere in that net, we practice gradually watering the seeds of loving kindness. So I think that's a good practice. I've taught that in different formats before, like I taught it to some Unitarians a couple of years ago. So when I started studying with Gil, I was very, very angry with a former teacher. It's like I tried to get over being angry with him, and I just couldn't get over it. I just find that some anger would come up while I was meditating. So I said to Gil, I said, look, I think he's just doing harm to the Sangha. And not only that, but I feel like it's my job to correct him. And I said, it's just wrong what he's doing. This is not anyone any of y'all know. So I went to Gil and I said, Gil, what he's doing is wrong. And Gil said, well, maybe he is wrong, forgive him anyway. And that had a big effect on my ability to do that. It's like, I don't have to pretend like what he's doing is correct or good, but I can still hold him in my heart in loving kindness. Thank you. So that was important to me. And let's see, what else did I want to tell y'all? Another thing that Gil taught me when I was working with him was to use my curiosity as a way of relating to people. We were learning how to relate to people that were dying or very sick in the hospital. And I had this kind of weird bias about curiosity, that it was invasive and maybe rude. And he said, oh, no, it's a great tool. And I started to use my curiosity about all the people I met that I felt were just kind of like alien. And the next thing I knew, I was absolutely interested in what they were doing. And as soon as that interest and trust starts right there, then you've stepped out of love and kindness and you are into compassion. Loving kindness can still have a meta, can still have a subject-object split. You know, I can send you loving kindness, but if we get on a wavelength, we're really communicating and really, really listening and being present with each other, then we're into the realm of compassion. And I think a lot of people confuse that. It's not niceness at all. Although loving kindness is nice, and it's a great way in. It's so accessible. Loving kindness is so accessible for everyone. And I already said, it's just something that every good philosophy or religion values it. And everyone I've ever met needs it. So I know I need it. So it's useful to me in chaplaincy work. And, you know, I told you that I was afraid that my compassion didn't flow naturally. But then when I found out that I could trust it, it just flowed so naturally. And if it feels like it isn't, then we can always go back to loving kindness, metta, to get it to flow again, water it a little bit. And let's see, what else did I want to say? One of the things that I do is I have a couple of lines in the sutra that I sort of use as a mantra. And they are, no one deceive another, nor despise any being in any state. I think despise is kind of a strong word, but anytime I feel just a little hint of aversion, I try to chant that mantra to myself. And then if I'm angry and I'm thinking about taking it out on someone, let none by anger or hatred wish harm to another. That's another mantra I use from this. And then, my favorite one, though, is so let one cultivate an infinite goodwill toward the whole world. And that's kind of like my overriding mantra from this sutra. And I think cultivate is the key word. It's not going to be something that we achieve and then it's just there for us. It's going to be something that we cultivate in the process of being with others. So, to me, that's something I've been trying to practice ever since I got all this depth teaching from those people at the Vipassana Institute. So actually, I kind of like to stop talking about it now at that, and I'd like for you guys to look at it again and see if you think there's any line in there that stands out for you that you could go to any time that you're not feeling particularly kindly. That would help, or one that you just remember without looking at it, that means something to you and would mean something in your practice with others. Because actually, I feel like all the sutras we study can be used this way. Certain phrases stand out to us that become a touchstone, and then maybe a year later, it's a different one. But I kind of like for you to think about that a little. Is there anything in the Metta Sutta that helps you? Yeah, Mike?
There's a couple things. This line, great or small, visible or invisible. the vast majority of biomass on this planet is completely invisible.
Mm-hmm.
You need a microscope to see it. And that's not just biomass, but that's also a number of species. So most life on this planet is invisible to the naked eye. They wouldn't have had any way of knowing that. They
Yeah.
were at least 1,500 year, microscope wasn't invented till 1400s.
Yeah.
They would have had no way of knowing that. I think that's really interesting. Also, I love this idea, and since this was, even though we don't know whether we can attribute it to Shakyamuni or not, this is obviously very, very old. So I always would be really curious, and maybe I'm just seeing this through Marxist terms, what their concept of weak and strong would have been. Because there wouldn't have been something like a middle class. You were
Right.
either bone-crushingly poor, or you were very, very powerful and wealthy. So they would have had a very different concept of that. And when I was listening to you talk, one of the things that came to mind from my background in entomology, I used to work at the Insect Zoo in the Smithsonian, and everybody hates cockroaches. Nobody on Earth likes roaches. But we used to have this colony of hissing cockroaches from Madagascar, which were about the size of a mouse. And for some odd reason, they don't like to be held. And so we used to let people come in and hold the hissing cockroaches. So, there's this enormous cockroach sitting in some people's hands. Some people could handle it, and some people got like really enamored of them. And while they were holding them, you tell them, just think about roaches for a second. And in terms of insect life, think how fast they can run. That in and of itself is interesting. And also, their closest relatives are praying mantises. Everybody loves praying mantises. Nobody likes roaches, but they're cousins. Very, very closely related. And so people would walk out with this totally different concept of one of the most loathsome things they could think of. So, it's kind of, because I actually catch roaches and throw them outside, I don't kill them. Because it's kind of futile for everyone you see, there's 400 hiding. So, I just always kind of wondered that hopefully, everybody left with a different concept of roaches and spiders.
It's so important to bring to mind when we find ourselves despising something that's just another being in a different state.
Yeah.
That's very helpful, Mike. Thanks. Anybody else?
I like
Go ahead, Lorel.
just one comment about, I like the way the word, let one not be submerged by the things of the world. That pretty much wraps it all up.
That's a pretty good one for you, huh?
Weight you down, That's all.
Yeah,
The sea of samsara.
the spirit of loving kindness could be submerged.
I took it as
Yeah.
everything else weighting you down.
Yeah, me too.
Sometimes you feel like you can't breathe.
Yeah.
Submerging of everything.
Yeah. Let no one be submerged by the things of the world. Is that how it goes? Yeah.
That's the line that stands out for me every time too. I think related to meta-kindness, there's like an element of self-interest, because when someone gets you, they are submerged. When you're like, oh, I just can't stand that. Like, you are submerged. Like, they're not submerged in that. You're submerged in whatever, or like cockroaches, or that person, or like. So that line I thought that's a very different line than all the other lines in this. And now I'm kind of starting to see like, there's an element of like, the meta-kindness to yourself is like, I'm not even going to get caught up with this other person. Like, let them, I have meta-kindness for them, I have meta-kindness for me. I don't have to be engaged with them, but like, I'm not going to get ensnared by my mindset over them or what they do or don't do.
Yeah, because that despising or submerging, that's all in our mind.